this point. Joseph, as I said, was given an Egyptian wife. And there were special blessings placed on their sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. You will see in Genesis 48, verse 5, it says, "And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came," this is Jacob speaking to Joseph, "to you in Egypt are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine." Jacob decided to incorporate Ephraim and Manasseh as his sons. So they now become tribes among the nation of Israel. Again, assuming that only Ham was black. Here we have whole tribes coming from this union. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. All right. And not only did he take them on as his own, and they became tribes, he gave them a special blessing. Genesis 48, verse 20, he says, "So he blessed them that day, saying, By you Israel will bless, saying, May Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh." And I just want to point out very quickly, if I get to the right slide, I believe, let's see, Gideon was from the tribe of Manasseh. And we know about his great victories. He became a judge of Israel, a great warrior. And Samuel may have been an Ephraimite. He certainly dwelt in Ephraim's territory. So there were some great black men in the Bible among the nation of Israel. Okay, and then there are a number of prophecies that we're not going to delve into in a great detail, but I just want to point out to you that through the prophets, Yah often made special mention of these descendants of Ham. He seemed to have a special concern for them, special relationship. And so you see in Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10, he says, "From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my worshipers, the daughter of my dispersed ones, shall bring my offering." Isaiah 19, verses 21 to 25, say, "Then Yahuwah will be known to Egypt, and Egyptians will know Yah in that day, and will make sacrifice and offering. Yes, they will make a vow to Yah and perform it. And Yahweh will strike Egypt, he will strike and heal it. They will return to Yah, and he will be entreated by them and heal them." They're returning to him? How can they return if they were never there? Again, there is a special relationship there. And this is one of my favorites. This is just continuing Isaiah 21. It says, "In that day there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrians will come into Egypt, and the Egyptian into Assyria. And the Egyptians will serve the Assyrians. In that day Israel will be one of three with Egypt and Assyria. A blessing in the midst of the land, whom Yah of hosts shall bless, saying, Blessed is Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, my inheritance." Okay. And again, Isaiah chapter 11, verses 11 and 12. "And it shall come to pass in that day that Yah shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea." I underline there nations that we know came from Ham. He's calling a remnant of his people from these lands. A lot of us have been raised to hate the land of Ham. We've been raised to really despise it, think of it as cursed and just this wild jungle and a place to fear. And some of Yah's people are there. And he's going to be calling them out. Finally, Psalm 68, verse 31. "Princes shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto Elohim." Okay. All right, what we've learned so far. The Bible is full of Hamites, or black Africans, of great achievement and stature. There was an Israelite presence in Africa throughout biblical times. At the very least, many Israelites were black due to the mixing of Shem and Ham's descendants. And the Most High desired the worship of Hamites and made special mention of them in prophecy. We're going to transition in just one moment. So we talked a lot about Ham and his people, but guess what? Not all blacks are Hamites. In fact, the Zondervan Bible Dictionary defines Ham as progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Dark races, but not the Negroes.
Right.
Who are the Negroes? We know who the Negroes are. We know who the Negroes are. Okay. The Zondervan Bible Dictionary, okay, official source, says Negroes don't come from Ham. Okay. Now, we see throughout Scripture that the descendants of Ham and the descendants of Shem were visually indistinguishable. You could not tell them apart. The appearance of the Hebrews was dark enough that they looked just like the descendants of Ham. How do I know this? Okay, there's a story about Moses, right? When he left Egypt and he was out in the wilderness and he rescued the daughters of Jethro.
Right.
And when they went back to their father, what did they say? An Egyptian rescued us.
Right.
Now think about it. If he looked, okay, yeah, he may have had Egyptian clothes on, but if I put on a Scottish garment with a kilt, you're going to say that's a black girl dressed in Scottish garments. You can tell the difference, even if I'm in foreign garment. If I can put on an Indian garment, you're still going to know I'm not an Indian. So they looked at him, and he looked like an Egyptian. And that is recorded, I can't remember, that's Exodus chapter 2. All right, Exodus 4, verses 6 and 7, when Moses was tripping and he wanted to go and let my people go. You don't want to do all that. And so Yah said, okay, can you just take your hand, put it in your cloak, and then take it out. What happened to his hand?
Turned white.
Turned white. If it had been white, it couldn't turn white. Yah was trying to say, I am so powerful, trust me. Okay, it could not have been a miracle if it was the same color. This was meant to show Moses, you can do this. I'm going to be with you, okay? So we got that. All right, we know also Miriam, she was tripping because Moses married an Ethiopian. What happened to her? She also was turned white. How could she have been turned white? As a punishment? That doesn't make sense. If she was already that color, it does not make sense. I'm just pointing out the obvious. Numbers 12, verse 10. All right, now Joseph also, in Genesis 50, he wasn't even recognized by his brothers. His own flesh and blood thought he was an Egyptian. It couldn't have just been the clothes people. That's what they always do. Oh, he had a wig on. No. They thought he was his own flesh and blood? That doesn't make sense. He looked just like an Egyptian. You couldn't tell the Hebrews apart from the Egyptians. And then in Genesis 50 is when Jacob died, and he said, you have to bury me in my land, the land that was promised to me. And so a large company, Joseph, all his brothers, Egyptian officials, they all left Egypt, went up to Jacob's plot, and buried him. And when the people of Canaan saw this large company, they said, oh, what a great morning for the Egyptians. Could not tell them apart. So, again, nobody disputes that Ham was a black. It's not even an argument. Father of the dark races. So if Shem's people, the Hebrews, look just like Ham, things that make you go, I'm going to show you one more. Paul, in Acts 21, verses 37 through 39. I may have this up here. Okay, it says, Acts 21, verse 37, and as Paul was about to be led into the castle, again, Paul getting in trouble always when he's preaching. Somebody wanted to throw him into prison again. He said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto thee? Who said, canst thou speak Greek? Now he looked at Paul and was shocked that he could speak Greek. Number one, if Paul was a white man, in Rome. And Greek at that time was like how English is now. It was like the international language. And he looked at Paul and was like, you can speak Greek? It doesn't make sense that he would be so shocked to look at a white man and be like, you can speak Greek, right? Next verse. Art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness, 4,000 men that were murderers? This Roman looked at Paul and thought he was an Egyptian. Now, Paul will tell you, he said, I'm a Hebrew of Hebrews. I'm of the tribe of Benjamin. Here we have a Benjamite who looks exactly like an Egyptian. The next few slides I am so excited about because they show you portraits of what Egyptians looked like during this time. These are called the Fayum portraits, and they were sometimes placed over the coffins of mummies. And I see them all over the internet now. When I found, I literally, well, I'll say I stumbled upon them, but y'all led me. I wasn't even looking for it. I just popped up and I was like, those were Egyptians from this time period. Painted, and they look very lifelike. That's what Egyptians look like in the years 50 to 150 AD. Mind you, these are Egyptians in this time after the Roman Empire had been in there. There's a lot of mixture, and yet, look at their appearance, even at this time. That looks like some of your cousins, does it not? Art not thou that Egyptian? That's what Paul looked like, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews. You said he had the Jericho. Okay, so again, I'm just going to wrap this portion up. Negroes, Black Americans, Jamaicans, Haitians, whatever you want to call them, are not Hamites according to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. The descendants of Ham and Shem from various tribes looked exactly alike. Why can I say that? Because Joseph fathered Manasseh and Ephraim. They look like Egyptians. Moses was from the tribe of Levi. He looked like an Egyptian. And Paul was of the tribe of Benjamin, and he looked like an Egyptian. So various tribes looked like Egyptians. They were not distinguishable. And so, from this we can conclude that some blacks are direct descendants of Shem and the nation of Israel. Okay? So the question that we have to ask ourselves, if some blacks are from the line of Shem, who is Israel? Who is Israel? Where are the Israelites today? Where can we find these dark-skinned descendants of Shem? Okay.
They ain't here today.
To answer this question, I want to take a step back first and ask the question, who was Israel meant to be? Before we figure out who Israel is, let's talk about who Israel was supposed to be. Okay? Exodus 19 and verse 3 through 5 says, And Moses went up to Elohim, and Yah called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. So Israel was called to be a special treasure to the Most High above all kings. They were to be priests. They were to be a holy nation.